I heard the surrogates for the Democrats last week alone talking about, the young black men voting and black women voting, et cetera, and all this stuff, and how they were worrying about leakage to the GOP. And one of the senior Democrats was saying, well, we just have to connect the dots with them. And I'm screaming at the television saying, you're connecting the wrong fucking dots. They've got dots out there that don't matter to people. And that was the downfall. I convinced it's got nothing to do necessarily with how well Trump resonated with the nation generally. It's that they had blinders on from the word go, whether it was Biden or Harris in the chair.
I think you're right, and to a certain extent, I think they're absolutely right. I think Trump, his politics were about grievance politics. So he fed into that's the one thing they must have really appreciated and got, that on a ground level, people are worried, just like in Canada, worried about their housing and worried about their jobs and worried about why can't they pay for things? Why at the end of this month I have no money left over? And 5-6 years ago, I did have money left over. So nobody connected it to the pandemic, at least of all Trump. He didn't want to do that because he wanted to put the blame for why they were in the economic state they're in into the Biden administration, where countries around the world that lockdown, that impact on the economy is going to be felt for years. And we're going to come out of it, and we are starting to come out of it. And then Trump will be able to own that as well. So I think what, his politics are all about everything is bad, everything is broken, and I'm the one to fix it. Where Harris was trying to counter that with this positive view of the U.S. is the greatest country in the world, and we all love each other, and which discounted the way people are actually feeling. So I think they just held their nose in spite of Trump and went for the Republican policies and decided there's a fix there, where the same administration is just not going to. It's just going to continue to make things worse for me.
Well, Brad, I think to some degree we want to throw around the word and the phrase policy. We want to talk about platforms and all of that. I don't think that the general electorate, whether it's in this country or stateside, is getting down to, well, what's Donald Trump's policy on the central bank or whatever it might be. I don't think there's a whole lot of vigorous conversation going on among
there's concepts of policies, Dave. There's concept of policies.
There's a concept of policies. So, I just think that he, say what you will about him, he was smart enough in 2016, smart enough in 2024 to say, this is what is pushing an emotional button with people, and I'm just going to keep pushing that bloody button, and that's landed him back in the White House.
Exactly.
For sure. I think, you talk about connecting the dots. I think the Harris campaign were halfway there by her, saying that she's not Donald Trump, right? She spent a lot of time telling people she's not Donald Trump, and not enough time telling people who Kamala Harris is. And we talked about this an episode two ago, and that's podcasting, right? And in the changing landscape, and I know I'm preaching to the Dave Trafford choir here, but that's where it is. And I think it was a tactical error to not do Joe Rogan. I think she missed an opportunity, an authenticity opportunity to just have that conversation, that 3-hour-long podcast that whoever gets through all that, God bless them. But so it's not about policy, right? Like, you could get into the policies for sure, but it would be more about her and the authenticity. And I think it was a huge, I think it was a big mistake. I think she did some of the right things, but I think, cabbies, the average Joe can't make it to a rally. But they have lots of time in the car to listen to podcasts. And I think, I don't want to go over what we have already talked about in the past, but I think that was an opportunity missed for sure.
Yeah, I think, Lindsay, when we start to look at that kind of eye level, eye contact, in some ways, the GOP strategy just simplified things. Whether you like the message or not, it didn't matter. It was easy to ingest and digest. You might want to throw up a little bit in your mouth, depending on who you are, but it was a lot easier than trying to figure out what lane the Democrats might have been in.
That they told a story that was astonishing. They used the words, our nation is an occupied nation, right? They used war language to describe the state of the United States right now, when, right, the realities over here, they're in some of the best financial, best job employment, best minimum wage environment that they've been in its history. But the narrative is about fear that you're losing something that you think you have, that you've lost something that you thought you had, right? And they tied it in a nice bow. To your point, they connected the dots and they said, we're at a point of such risk that if you go with her, the woman who's just going to trottle on, use big words, big sentences, we're going to get nowhere marginally fast. And I'm going to double down on the word action, right? Like, Trump is action oriented to the point of, I don't know what I'm going to get, but I'm going to get something, and I'm going to roll the dice and hope that what he's going to do is going to be so marginally other than where we are right now. It's going to benefit me. And I think that's the way he talks to a lot of cohorts and constituents. He breaks them down, finds their fear, and says it's going to be better with me. Take that risk, take that chance.
Well, and when we start to look at this, and here's the challenge, I think that media is going to have, a larger challenge that the Democrats are going to have, and that is to say, we respect the outcome of this election. Everybody puts their hand up, and that's good. We're all breathing a sigh of relief from that perspective. As a footnote, it will be Kamala Harris who presides over the joint session of Congress and the Senate that will actually certify this election come January 6th, but that's just a minor thing. Right? I'm just saying. So to appear, and as we record this, the vice president has not yet made her concession speech, but we expect fully that she will today. The Democrats are going to have to, at one hand, say, yes, he's the president, we move on. But at the same time, you can't kind of backtrack, Bob, on all of the accusations that they have made, the fears that they have brought up about a Trump presidency. I find it hard to believe that he's not going to have, this massive deportation. He's not going to bring in the tariffs he promised. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. All the other questions about going after his political opponents. It's not in his DNA to say, I was just kidding, right?
Right. Yeah. He's really going to do that stuff. Make no mistake. And I think he'll move pretty quickly on it. To your point about the Democrats, they got to figure out who they are and where they're going to go. I mean, this was a colossal defeat for them. Let's remember, they were the incumbent party. They had tremendous momentum out of the gate when Biden stepped aside and Harris took over as the nominee. So there was a lot in their favor that they weren't able to capitalize on, and they weren't able to connect with grassroots America that elected Donald Trump as the next president. The Democrats have become the elitist party in the U.S. And if you just look at the endless number of maps we saw last night, you can draw a blue circle around every major urban center. But as soon as you get outside of that, it changes. So the Democrats have to do a fundamental retool. They have to come to a new understanding about how is it they communicate to and connect with that heartland rural voter that Trump has done such a good job of capturing and connecting with. That's what the Democrats need to do moving forward. They have to figure out what are the dots, like you said, Dave. They were connecting the wrong ones during this campaign. So what are the right dots, and how do they connect them, and how do they get there?